Hi everybody! Today we're going to talk about lesson 26, comparing fractions by drawing pictures. So we have compared fractions using our fraction pieces. If those help you to solve this lesson, you can also use those as a way to check your work. But we don't always have fraction pieces with us, so we're going to talk about how to compare them while drawing a picture. So when we take two fractions and we want to compare them, we're going to draw a shape. It can be a circle or a square or a rectangle. It doesn't matter, but those two shapes need to be the same size. They need to be congruent, okay? Or as close to congruent as you can get them, okay? A circle that's small and a circle that's big isn't going to help you in your work. So for example, if I wanted to split these in and compare a fourth and a half, I can use my shapes. So let's do the circle first. Okay, so I'm going to take the first circle and split it in half and just kind of carefully color in one, and take the other and split it into fourths. You want to split them as evenly as you can so that it's easy to compare the sizes. Before we compare, I'm going to do the same thing to my rectangles. Split one in half, and I'm going to split one in fourths. Now, I can split it in fourths this way, and then I could split it across this way. But instead, I'm going to now take my two halves and split each of them in half, so I have vertical fourths. Okay? So here I have a half and a fourth. Okay, when you use a rectangle, split them vertically. It's going to be easier to visualize your comparison. So here I have a half, here I have a fourth, here I have a half, and here I have a fourth. So whether we use the circles or the rectangles, it's easy to see that a half is bigger than a fourth. So 1/4 is less than 1/2. Now, even though the denominator is larger on 1/4, you would think, oh, that's the bigger denominator. It's the bigger number, so that should be bigger. But in fact, the larger the denominator, the smaller the piece. Okay? Might want to take note of that. The larger the denominator, the smaller the piece. Okay? Because I'm splitting this circle just into two pieces, but this I'm splitting into four pieces. So because there are four pieces, the pieces have to be smaller than if I'm only splitting it into two pieces. Okay? If I was to continue and I wanted to split this into eighths, let's say, okay, this 1/8 is going to be smaller than 1/4 because I've split that same size rectangle into 8 pieces instead of 4. So because there are more pieces, the pieces have to be smaller. Okay, so now let's look at this for example 1. So Cleon finished his math assignment in 1/3 of an hour. Jan finished the assignment in half an hour. Who took longer to finish the assignment? Draw pictures to compare the fractions. So I'm going to draw rectangles because I like rectangles. And I'm going to draw them one on top of the other because it's a little bit easier to compare when they're above each other than when they're next to each other. Okay, so this is Cleon, and his was 1/3 of an hour. And this is Jan, and hers was half. So Jan, pretty easy to split into half. There we go. And there's Jan's half an hour. Cleon's I'm going to split into third. And with thirds, it's kind of best to put a couple of little marks. Compare, are these about even This one looks like it needs to be a little bit bigger. Okay, and then you can draw the rest of your line. Okay, so here I have my 1/3 for Cleon. So I can see by comparing that 1/3 is smaller than 1/2. So I'm going to rewrite the original problem as they gave it to us. And a half is greater than 1/3. All right, let's look at example 2. Wanchin and Jan were reading the same book. Wanchin had read 1/3 of the book, and Jan had read 3/9 of the book. Who had read more? Draw pictures to compare the fractions. Okay, so again, we're going to use rectangles. And because I'm going to split 1 into 9ths, I'm going to make my rectangles a little bit bigger this time. Not necessarily taller, just wider. Okay, and here is Wanchin and Jan. Wanchin has read 1/3, and Jan has read 3/9. Okay, again, I'm going to kind of put my little marks to make my thirds. That looks about right. So here's 1/3. And now I'm splitting this into 9ths, and I know 3 is a multiple of 9, so I'm going to split these into thirds, and then each third into thirds. So there's 1 section, 2 sections, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, double count that you have 9, and then we're going to color in 3 of them. You need to color in 3 next to each other so that you are comparing the entire shaded area to the third. Okay, don't pick 1 here, 1/3 here, and 1/3 over here. It's going to be too difficult to compare. Okay, and I can see here that 1/3 is equal to 3/9. So answering my sentence, who had read more? They have read the same amount. Okay, that's a U. All right, so they have actually read the same amount of the book, even though the fractions are different. Okay, that's it. Your lesson practice is A through D. Make sure you draw pictures, and I will see you tomorrow.